Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm Giorgia Petracchi. I'm very honored to be here. I'm from Florence. I represent Italia Viva here today with all of you. It's an Italian Labour Party who supports Renew Europe and Young Democrats for Europe. I want to thank EID for this opportunity to live an European reality involving young people in politics. It's a really important topic, and we need to take the stage as young people to be the next generation who would lead us in the future and in the most present, like now. I want to thank also to be part of this policy, a policy based on the value of freedom, democracy, free speech and participation, which underpin our vision to a liberal Europe. An Europe based on the value of freedom and democracy who wants us young people to participate and take stage against the fight that Europe is going to fight and to make decisions that count for us and for our future and for our future children. So let's start today. We are going to discuss about the libraries encountering disinformation and how libraries can promote public education. We are here today with two experts that are going to lead us in this discussion. We are here in particular with the Abbot of Strahov, who will thank to have us today in this monastery, Daniel Janáček, and the director of the Municipal Library of Prague, Dr. Tomáš Řehák. So now we are going to start with the Abbot of the monastery, Daniel Janáček, who is the head of a cannery. Inside the monastery there is the library of the Strahov Library, who was founded in 1143. For almost 1,000 years old, the monastery has collected and preserved well books and their precious knowledge. Today it contains at least 200,000 volumes, many of which are currently scanned and available to the public to consult and to read. The first question to you is, what role can monasteries, places of worship, play in countering disinformation and opening the doors of ancient knowledge to the community? Community who can be community in Prague, but even community in Europe, in an European sense. Thank you.
Nejdříve dovolte, abych vás, vážené dámy a
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to greet you at the international conference. I would like to greet you here at the Strahov Monastery. I have studied theology and liturgy, so I'm not a specialist in libraries. We have experts for that, and my secretary, who is not here today, he is on a business trip. But I would like to rectify it. Our monastery was established back in 1143, and the first library in Europe, the first libraries were built only in the Baroque area. Until that time, we do not know libraries as such as a space. Of course, books were preserved. The oldest book we have is from year 900. The Evangelium is the Strahov Evangelium, and it apparently comes from France. We live in a time that is complex, that has various terms, is termed to be postmodern, as a time, as a fluid time, which is difficult to, it's difficult to grasp this time, to comprehend this time. I would like to start with a story of a mayor who has to resolve an important issue. And he called various disciples or representatives of various parties and streams. He called them one by one. He talked to them, and at the end he says, "I understand your statement, you are right." And this way he replied to each of them. They were 5 in total, and to every one of them he replied, "I understand your statement, you are right." And his secretary, when saying goodbye to them, how can you do that? Those were antagonistic opinions. How can you say this? He said, "I understand your and he said, "I understand your statement." Also to the secretary, he replied this. He said, "I understand your statement." And I think this is quite funny. This characterizes our time very well, since the modern era, modern time. There hasn't been one single truth in the society. We as a monastery are representatives of a different reality. We are looking for this single truth, and we want to believe in this single truth. And I would like to say this initially. Libraries, in particular ours, belong to the eldest ones. We have 2 halls. One is titled Theologian Baroque Hall. When the philosophical part was later established, well, there you can see various attitudes to the truth. The Baroque Hall, the truth there was perceived, and the truth there has humility. The attitude is humble, the attitude of a human in search of the truth. But the theologian hall is based more on a human. We live at a time of disinformation. How can we battle disinformation? I'm not an expert on that, but there are some basic facts. We as Christians worship values. We are at the time of Easter, and we have been granted freedom, and to live in such a freedom is not entirely easy. But the first thing for me, Christianity for me is a religion of freedom. We can discuss about what all have gone wrong in history. Nietzsche was Christian as well. He was a son of a monk. He is from the pietistic background, and he perceived religion to be something restrictive. And the openness towards critical thinking, beliefs and mind, faith and mind are never in the opposite to each other. Knowledge has evolved. The truth or truths reappear. And the science moves forward. And it might be easier today to talk to modern scientists than to physicists from the 17th century, but we have made progress. We have moved forward.
However, that does not mean that our life is easier now. The openness, in my opinion, is very important. That's why our library is open to everyone. And our colleagues say there are fewer and fewer people. You probably know about this yourself. Our library is also getting digitalized. However, the number of truths and the focus on an individual is the complexity which I see, and I see only one way to show the people what is beautiful, to point out the desire that is in us, in every person, and intellectually we can think about new things. However, there are facts that touch us in inside, and a person needs orientation in their life, and for that it is necessary to read, to think. However, the truth we have to look for, and we are the finger here that points at the classical philosophical questions and think about it is everything or whether there is not more to it, not only a sum of definition about myself. And we as monasteries want to be also places of spirituality, and to exceed this we should appreciate what is available. Libraries are our heritage. Libraries over the centuries have collected knowledge and have taught people to think critically, have taught people to think, reflect, and we want to fulfill this function further. And the question is how to do it. We are still looking for the way. We try to open this way and not just wait who will come to see our library. But we try to catch the people's attention somehow, invite the people, so that Strahov is a live, cultural, scientific place, but also a place where we can take something home from for our lives, our inner lives. We can see the beauty here at the library, and we can enjoy this.
We see how the openness of libraries is important to effectively be able to read, to know, and to be able to know our history. Without ancient history, we can build our future. So I have another question for you. How can children, young people, and adults decide to come here instead of go on the internet? Why is there so importance to build knowledge on libraries, on books, and not on website? Thank you.
Už právě tou skutečností, že
young people come here and we prepare various programs for schools for young people, and by that we want to show as the librarians say, a book is such a bearer, or children know artificial intelligence, they know internet better than us. And the wisdom, sapiencia, the basis of the word is sapio, is to enjoy something, taste something, or it is about pointing at the beauty of life. A library gathers not just books and what is valuable, what was important for the people in the past, but we also want to point out at the relationships, and we want to show the school what life is about. We probably are exotic people for them in this monastery, wearing white gowns, but we want to show them certain values at least. Hopefully we will be able to do this. We are looking for ways, always, all of us try to find some solution, way to the truth, and if we recognize there is a certain truth, path, then it's not just about looking for the path, but also walking down the path. And through the beauty and art, we want to show them that in life there are also other values, not just me, my little self, and the people before us lived these values too, and also were striving for these values.
Pass on from generation to generation. We need to let children go in libraries. We need them to learn not only from internet. I think that we need to think internet and libraries as complementary, something that we can learn about, and we need to frequent more libraries. We need to stay in these places together, and it's important how places like Monastery of Strahov do program for children to learn from the beauty and from everything. Sapientia, knowledge, is nothing without someone who can teach us about anything or something or everything, like books. So let's present our second expert, Dr. Tomáš Řehák. He's a really institution in the Municipal Library of Prague. He worked there as a computer specialist, and he created a IT department and a program called Kanias, I hope the pronunciation is right, Kanias library system, who is still used today. The library under his leadership won 3 prime for the prize of the Ministry of Culture and the title of the best library of the year, the last year in 2023 for the last time. So he also is a member of the Czech Television Council, who is the body exercising the public right to control television in Czech Republic. So I have two questions actually for you. How can libraries, for you who have a great career in libraries, can put back at the center of a reliable source and secure information production?
I have a presentation. May I start with a presentation and then to answer a question?
Yes, sure,
yeah?
yes.
Okay. By the way, the name of the system is Kovářová, who was a monk, Jesuit monk and priest. I prepare a presentation about how I see what are the libraries today. And since I was taught that most of you are Czech-speaking, I will switch to my mother tongue. Dobré odpoledne, dámy a pánové.
Good morning, ladies. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I have a presentation for about 15 minutes, and let me tell you what a public library is about. If you allow me, I will start with a joke. A drunk guy comes to a library, public library, and comes to a librarian with his watery eyes and says, "I would like a double cheeseburger, French fries, and a Coke." A surprised librarian looks at him and says, "You are in a library here." Oh, I'm sorry, double cheeseburger, French fries, and Coke, whispering. Why am I saying this joke? Because it may seem funny to us. The paradigm of what a library is about. What is funny is that this paradigm is totally wrong. It is an image of a library that may correspond to the library here in Strahov Monastery or the New York Public Library in the historic study. However, today's books look differently. Those are not places where you would be afraid to talk loudly. Those are places where life is going on. Those are not places where it would be a surprise that you want a hamburger and French fries. Everything I'm showing you are pictures of libraries. Those are places where, besides the fact books are lent, also video games are played, or sewing machines are used, or 3D models are printed there on 3D printers, or you can learn how to make a birdhouse or you can watch films, videos, TV series there. You can meet peculiar objects there, like a flying motorcycle, or special beings from another planet. Or you don't have to do anything there. Now, after I told you this, you probably think, fine, so you can do anything there, so it has no borders, no logic, no direction. Yeah, it does. In order to explain this, I will tell you another anecdote. It is actually not an anecdote. It is said. We called it a hamster business plan because it sounds very managerial. However, it is simple. Imagine that a sad 10-year-old girl comes to a library and says, my hamster died. His name was Pepík. And now there are two different paradigms how the library can respond. The paradigm on which the initial joke is based on expects that the librarian will say something like, are you going to return your books or borrow new books, or somehow include the hamster in the conversation. So the paradigm is that the main meaning of a library is borrowing books. It's when you come to the library, you are supposed to borrow a book, take it home. A library is a place for books, according to this paradigm. People walk down the aisles of the library. I've been working as a director at the library for 20 years. Yes, libraries offer books, but less and less. This is a chart that shows development in the Czech Republic, and in other countries it will look the same. Nowadays, for each visit of a library, we can say that they borrow about 50% of books than 20 years ago, compared to 20 years ago. Yes, borrowing books is still important. We try to use modern technologies so that it costs the taxpayers as little as possible. So in our branches around the world, you find such devices called self-check. You put the books on it, your ID card, and you can get the book. You don't need a librarian. We put this automatic device in operation in Černý Most in a shopping center. You open the door with an access card. You can borrow the books this way, and you don't need a librarian. I think that the librarian does not have to be there for you. It can be done differently.
When speaking about books, we also have to speak about electronic books, because this phenomenon has become increasingly important. For those of you who are from the Czech Republic, it might be interesting that the biggest producer of Czech electronic books here is our library. We publish, on average, one electronic book every work day. So most legally held electronic books in the Czech Republic, legally owned, come from our library. The number of downloaded books from our website highly exceed the national average of book sale, because it's for free. Here we can see the following. The red are the paper books, borrowed, and the blue ones are the downloaded e-books from us. Today, we offer people to read both electronically and in paper. It's the same service. Someone wants to read something. Let's go back to Pepík. This was a paradigm that the library is there for you to borrow books, but we think the paradigm is different now. The correct answer to when a sad 10-year-old girl comes to the library saying, "My hamster died, he was Pepík," and the correct reply would be, "I'm so sorry to hear that." Or, this is a paradigm that it's not important what I have on the bookshelf. It is not important what I have on stock, but the person coming to me, addressing me with trust, needing something, that is the core, the center. The libraries in the Czech Republic have a strategy of development until the year 2027. It says that the libraries are the pillar of democratic, cultured, and educated society. I sometimes feel that libraries are rather a small chair on which everyone can sit. But libraries can be a pillar of democracy and education and culture. Let's start with culture. That is the simplest one. Everyone links libraries to culture. The Abbot has already spoken about it. I will show you this website primarily for the Czech-speaking colleagues. When you type knihovny CZ in the browser, you will access the catalog of all the libraries. You will see what the libraries offer, including electronic resources. This is one spot. I find it interesting that libraries can be a pillar of cultured society, preserving the values created by our ancestors. And they are also taking care of the values that will remain after us. This is what I saw in one branch that no longer exists. These are guitars with a barcode. You can read in, scan the barcode, and you can even or could even borrow a guitar. It's a very cheap way how to support creativity. So in Helsinki, they also have a recording studio already. In many libraries, you will find Fab Labs. These are workshops enabling creativity of different kinds. You want to create something. Large-scale plotters. When you want to print out something in the A0 format. Or when you want to embroider using a machine, or when you want to sew something, or 3D printers. 3D print is a great space for creativity. That was culture. I ran quickly across it. And education. That was one of your questions. The first thing we can offer are resources. This is not surprising. If you are a reader of our library, anyone, any EU citizen can be a reader. Then for 60 crowns per year, for 2.5 euro, you get access to the complete EBSCO database comprising 9,000 specialist magazines such as Nature. From the comfort of your home, having an account at the library, you have access to such magazines. You as students have that. You as students have access. Because your university is linked to us. When you complete your studies, your access ends. When you study medicine, you have access to the state-of-the-art information. When you complete your studies, you need to look for the information yourself. The library can help. Libraries have a high array of quality cultural material such as musical databases, databases of pieces of art, etc. Or you might be interested in what's going on in the world. Again, for 60 crowns per year. Magazines, global magazines, national dailies, etc. This is 1/5 of the titles, and by a title I mean one magazine, and then every issue is available. Libraries also organize educational events for children. Here children learn how to program robots. Here children play with virtual reality. For adults, we have educational and cultural events. One single Prague library had 8,000 events per year, like the event today, for instance. Fight against disinformation. Libraries are developing formats how to tackle this. Colleague Hudeček has been awarded several international prizes for his achievements tested on children, adults, and seniors. We produce content online. The lecture of Mikhail Romantsov that we put up on YouTube, Russia in International Relationships and Why We Don't Understand Russia, we put it one day ahead before Russia invaded Ukraine. Until today, this lecture has gained 350,000 views. When you take a look at other things that we have produced, Mikhail Romantsov, again, 184,000 Donbass, 44,000 the story of a canvas of Turin, Ukraine, 20,000 Romantsov, microbiome and us, gut, microflora, etc. These are libraries as well. And democracy is the most important, obviously. Eric Linenberg, professor of sociology at the New York University, is a person who has coined the term social infrastructure. He started his release back in 1995. In Chicago, there was a heat wave, fatal heat wave, and almost 1,000 people died back then. And he investigated what people those were, how this is linked to the structure of the city, how it looks like, what it looks like. Of course, in rich quarters, people died, fewer people died, but he was interested by 2 quarters, city parts that were neighboring, mostly neighbors or people of color with high crime rate, and in one of the quarters, number of victims was 10 times higher than in the other one. That's quite a difference. He has found out that the reason lies in social infrastructure, and that really is infrastructure, concrete. Concrete bringing people together, so making them socialize. It's socializing infrastructure. That's a bench in the park. That's a community playground, a community garden, a church, and of course a library. When he started to investigate this phenomenon, he established that during an extraordinary climate disaster, this has saved many lives, and the medium longevity was by 5 years longer. There was a 5-year difference in the medium lifespan. In medicine, you would pay unbelievable resources. And here, this was achieved just because people took care of themselves mutually, because they knew each other. Ray Oldenburg and his concept of the third place is linked to that. Most of you know that. Third place. First place is home, second place is where we work or learn, and then we need a third place. Public space where we meet. Rotterdam Library. I'm fascinated by the chess I saw there 20 years ago. I've been there 3 times since then. And down below in the lobby, you can play chess. When 2 people finish their game, 2 other can go and play after them. And then there are 10 bystanders discussing their game. Seattle. An old library in Helsinki, Guangzhou in China, a new library in Helsinki, the same place. This is not Helsinki, this is Vantaa. Here you can notice how the architect works with the seats. This is a pattern that you will also see in other pictures. There is no problem sitting next to someone else because you are not invading his intimate zone. And at the same time, you are nearby. You are close to each other, you perceive each other, you can ask, what's the time, or you look great today. Here, a group made a meeting in a library resolving an issue. And then you can also organize programs. We started with games. Public space, games you can play there with someone you have never seen in your life. You have played with this one and that one. You may exchange telephone numbers and say, well, let's meet some next time. On Facebook, we have 800 types of games in our stock. Do you want to play 800 different games? When you are completed, we will have additional 300. You can also watch TV together, watch films, especially when you are in the China and don't have to be preoccupied with intellectual property. This is Espoo of Finland, and this is Helsinki. And we are coming to the end. Libraries can also do extraordinary things. This is Amsterdam. And these are stories of immigrants to Amsterdam. When you stand before the screen, you can hear a story why they have come to Amsterdam, why did they opt for Amsterdam, why they wanted to leave their place, and why it's important for them to be in Amsterdam right now. Or Aarhus. There have this 5-meter large gong, because the sound can be really strong when you hit it with a hammer. It's a joy. A child was born in our town. Or this is 3 days after the start of the war, after the invasion of the Ukraine by Russia. Our municipal library established the very first center for the refugees in Prague. Before anyone else did that, we had the first center for the refugees.
All this is a library, a pillar of democracy, culture, and education.
About a great evolution of libraries. We've seen how libraries can be not only a place to learn, but to do a lot of other things like recording music. But I have a question for you. In this evolution, we are not leaving anyone behind because there is a problem of privilege in going to libraries. We have to consider that a lot of kids don't read at home. I was fortunately one who has parents who wants to teach and to read to them. I was taught to read by reading the Odyssey and the Aeneid, and I was going to the libraries when I was 2 years old, so I was fortunate. But how can we brought culture and knowledge to that one can't go to libraries? Because a lot of children can't go because they are little, so they can go by themselves, and they have parents who works and who doesn't want or doesn't know how to approach culture in a poverty who is poverty of culture and knowledge. How can we overcome this privilege and can have a real equality and democratic value of knowledge for everyone, really everyone, without leaving anyone behind? Thank you.
Děkuji za otázku.
Thank you for your question. The experience from Czech libraries of a number of foreign libraries is such that children from problematic social environments visit libraries much more often and more intensely than children from privileged families and privileged areas. We have a branch in Prague, in Žižkov, in the part of Žižkov that is still not a posh one or cool to live there. And repeatedly, we have the experience that children come there who have no library card because their parents would never sign an application form or pay any money for it. It doesn't matter, though. The children can spend a lot of time there, can read there, can talk to other children, can establish new friendships there, and they do it because their parents don't care at all where their children are, and if they're in a library, it's good for them. So I think that the libraries are a democratic institution without doing anything special for it. It is actually in our law, the Czech Librarian Act. The Czech Republic is one of the few countries with such an act. A library is institution that provides librarian information services to everyone with no difference. It doesn't matter whether it's a member of parliament or a child or nobody really cares about the child. It's the same for everyone.
In Czech Republic there is this importance given to everyone and everyone without anyone be excluded. I have a last question about climate changing. How do you think that libraries in 20 years can represent climate changing and can help to prevent the effect of climate changing?
Lehčí otázka by nebyla?
Any easier question? Of course, the libraries cannot divert changes of the climate. The libraries can try to make sure that there are more people who have feeling that this problem has to be addressed, because there are still many people who don't believe that we have a problem. And then there are many people who don't believe that the globe is round, and there are more and more of them. Then the libraries can try to develop creativity, as I showed you before, an appetite to try something, to develop our own talent. And we don't know what will be decisive one day for us not to die out on this planet. It may be some ingenious invention or general modesty or change to lifestyle. It is hard to say today. However, we know that if we develop the talent in each individual human being and encourage them so that the human being tries to do their best, then yes, that may be the way.
We are at the end of this conference. I think we have 5 minutes for question from the public, if someone wants. Yes?
Hello, I'm Mr. Singh. Jean, thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question here for you. Given the fact there is a transition on a large scale, there's a big revolution. Transition is happening from paper-based model to digital. People are going more and more online. So how do you foresee the future of libraries?
Future of libraries is obviously bright, no doubt about that. Actually, 20 years ago, when I started as a library director, it was quite common that politicians said, hey, why to invest into library? It's nonsense, everything's on internet. Today, no politician willing to be elected again would say such a thing. Again, what's really important is to understand the change of paradigm. Libraries are not the place meant to lend out books. Libraries are pillars of democracy, culture, and knowledge. Is there anybody who do not want to live in a cultural, democratic, and well-educated society? No. Future of libraries is bright.
So we have 20 minutes for discussion, so sorry, I was wrong.
Thank you very much for the floor, Ivo Kaplan. So I have a question, já mám otázku pro pana Opata.
I have a question for the Abbot. The conclusion of our morning session was to find trust in I am a chairman of the European Institute to Renaissance. This happened in the 16th century when, as you mentioned, we found out that the planet is round, the Earth is round. So what is the recipe for our youth? The young people are those we are doing this for. What would you advise them? How to detect the truth so that the others believe them, so that we don't need more Galileo Galilei, so that there is certain development in place.
To je, pan doktor taky říkal.
I don't know. The doctor said that trust is something that needs to be built, but yes, there are parents who don't take care of their children much, and the children do have the potential, and through the library and their friends, they can establish certain trust. However, for me, the trust comes through the parents. You probably know the joke that father tells the son jump and catches him, and one time the father jumped aside, and the son hit his nose. It is kind of funny but painful at the same time. A person builds trust through experience, through life experience, and the trust can be broken very easily, and then is followed by mistrust again. I think that the desire that is in us gives us the wings and that we desire in our inside for something, and I hope that we will all find people in our lives that will show us that we can trust each other. I wish that there were as many people like that as possible. I think that we live in a very fast time, and as you could see, libraries are a nice example of a place where you can just stop, relax, and not to be carried away by the speed. It is trust is a process that takes a long time to build. Of course, it is easy to give advice. I don't want this to be catechism advice about how to live our lives well. However, the humanity or the basic values are those values a person has to discover again and build on them again. If I may add something, I think that part of the answer was mentioned by the Abbot already at the beginning of his entree. It was the anecdote with the mayor who tells everyone, "Yes, you're right, I understand you." You asked me before how the library can educate the disinformation era and mutual distrust. Each education starts with a contract on education and learning. And if I have a person in front of me that believes that the earth is flat, then the contract won't work. If I build it on the fact that I think you're an idiot because you believe that the earth is flat, and I will make sure that you believe it because I'm right. My uncle, when I was 20, said that you are right, but you cannot beat somebody with your truth over their head. So it is about offering without forcing somebody, and we should always look for what we have in common. If somebody comes to a library believes that the earth is flat, then we won't start with heliocentric universe, but we will talk about growing roses instead first.
Yes, there.
Dear Abbot, thank you to speak about, to be the one to speak about the relativity of perception and the necessity to have a mutual comprehension of everyone's truth. So thank you. And my question is about the work you do at Strahov Monastery with the digitalization of your archives, and also about monasterium.org. So can you give us some numbers?
Sorry, I don't properly.
Digitalizace a vlastně modernizování těch knihovní a jestli jsme na tom monastery dát org.
To jsou
These are questions that could be replied to by the director of the library. Digitalization is an ongoing process. We receive governmental subsidy for that, and I can't answer you how much percentage has already been digitalized, but the work is ongoing all the time. I'm sorry that I can't say this exactly, but we can find it out tomorrow and let you know. I know there are requests for subsidies. I'm signing it, of course, but how far we've gone, I'm not capable of saying, because there are volumes, and we are predominantly a historical library. In Baroque, there used to be monasteries, and we know the national libraries and the municipal libraries. We specialize also in the purchase of new books. We also purchase new books, but in a limited manner. We specialize in theological books. And the rest we have passed on someone else. But I will find it out for you, and I will let you know where it is. Otherwise, we are open for researchers, but their numbers have been decreasing because they can work from their home thanks to digitalization, so that makes it much easier. So I'm sorry that I can't answer your question accurately.
I see first one on the right, on the front row. So yes, he's.
Díky. Já mám na vás.
Thank you. I have a question for both of you. Green transition and the discussion as regards Green Deal revolves a lot around intergenerational dispute because the approaches of the generations differ. You spoke about a dialogue as an important tool of getting closer. How can your institutions help specifically to find the dialogue across generations?
Já začnu zase z toho náboženského.
I will start again from the religious point of view. We have a dialogue. Also, in our religious environment, it is not uniform how it used to be, right? The truth is being looked for. We have various streams in the church from left to right, and it's kind of weird that everything coexists. And this is the biggest proof of the existence of God, actually, that the church has prevailed. But the dialogue is a fundament of the religious life. We understand faith as a response. So there is a dialogue. And this should be in our DNA. The fact that we don't understand it, that we all don't understand it, well, that's the fact. It's a sad fact. But the Pope himself wrote the encyclica Laudato about the praise of inception, creation. And so he consulted the biggest experts to be able to compile this. Some will say that he doesn't understand and he can write whatever he wants. the fundament of the dialogue is to accept that the other person is a person of the same value as I have. For us, from the religious point of view, we are all the children of God. And we believe that we are here together because God wanted us to be here. That's the fundament, the basis of our perception. And then the person next to me is my brother and my sister. And for that reason, I want to share our world, our home with them. And this forces me slightly to see that person this way, and also the planet that it was given to us, that understanding life as a gift, there also needs to be humility and respect for what is and for what is living. And then with these premises, I can enter the dialogue. I can relate to this very much. The intergenerational dialogue needs to be perceived entirely differently than another type of dialogue. I have recalled a very controversial scene. I was in Canada in a seminar on human rights, and one Scottish philosopher from the department there said that he didn't agree with feminism, and he has triggered rage there, because ism flattens a person into one dimension, which for a philosopher is unacceptable. There's something about this. Intergenerational dialogue, when you say this phrase, I feel I have been reduced to 60 years of age having heard this phrase, and just that. I think we should aim at a human dialogue, regardless of our differences and samenesses, right? I believe that I haven't answered your question, but anyway.
Row, the girl and the guy in the red shirt. Second row from the front. Here, there. Sorry.
Dobrý den, já bych měl...
Good afternoon. I have two questions for Dr. Řehák. I was incredibly intrigued by the presentation of the library and the dimensions of the library. I found them very fascinating, and I would like to know where in the Prague library you draw inspiration. Helsinki and Finland was there frequently, from other countries as well, right? And have you evolved, have you developed something of your own, something that was novel? Your concepts and projects, are they used across the Czech Republic, and where? And the second question is whether you believe that against the backdrop of today, of disinformation, creating gaps among people, can such institutions create the space where people can enter the dialogue and may actually eliminate the trenches? Thank you.
Taky bereme všude, kde se dá. Protože když už to někdo...
As regards the inspiration, we draw it everywhere we can. As regards the library specifically, Scandinavia and the North is very inspiring. Southeastern Asia, Singapore has the best libraries today, and many things can be also found somewhere else. You can not only get inspired by libraries, but from Helsinki we have drawn some things, and that's why we were happy to see them. They saw that we were the biggest publisher of e-books, and so they were intrigued by that and wanted to learn from us, because we started with it 15 years ago, we said that borrowing of e-books is a very disputable concept for the libraries, and that it would be much better to issue the books for the libraries. These are not out of copyright books, but they are out of commercial peak. These are things that were published 10, 15 years ago for the first time. It is still interesting to have them available, but you will not earn on it much. So we conclude agreements with the authors. We issue a book every work day. It's a public domain. You don't have to register. Anyone from the planet can download it. So this is a public service. This is the way it should look like. And this is the way the Finns are now learning it. So we are trotting the globe and we are stealing. And now about the divided society. It picks up on the previous answer. We need to understand every human being as someone who deserves dignity. We share many things in common that we can build upon. Yesterday, I had a debate in the library. There was a panel debate of 3 young panelists on the topic of the appearance of the city, urbanism. There were 2 young architects and one journalist. And they were presenting opinions that I could greatly relate to: the green city, cycling, walking, let's reduce cars, let's enhance public space. And there were also many people, obviously, who didn't resonate with that, and we could see that they were becoming increasingly upset, and I felt, well, we didn't do well at this. We had 3 people presenting more or less the same view, and the panel debate actually should inspire you in the audience. You would say, oh, this is the way I would like to say it. I have some food for thought. And this, I believe, is something we can call a neutrality of libraries. I said also, I'm in the board of the Czech television. It's a public service television. So I believe this to be the way. Library as a place that provides everyone some food for thought.
Děkuji moc. Dobrý večer.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Alžběta Kalalová. It is concluding very nicely the entire day. Today we started with disinformation and we discussed how to talk to the public so that they can trust us, so that we are capable to send out a message that will be accepted by the public. It's very complicated not to upset anyone, and Mr. Řehák has just said it. It's a nice idea. We might have a nice idea, but to pass it on the people is very difficult. Going back to the first thing voiced by the Abbot, the joke with the mayor, who must actually listen to everyone. He's a mediator. And I believe that there it's important that he listens to everyone. The issue of today is that many of us has difficulties listening to others. We are at a fast-paced time, and it's a problem to stop and say, look, now the other one is listening. We will suppress our ego and we will listen to someone else, because they can have an interesting perspective. We don't have to agree. They might have an entirely different experience. but we cannot put them aside because he's saying nonsense. That's a perspective that is entirely false. And when we speak about climate change or anything else, we have to first hear our counterparty and give them the feeling that we're listening to them.
So I really like this comment. Thank you for that.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, the Abbot. Thank you, Dr. Director. I'm really happy to be here with all of you, and I hope that something remain with you through everything of your days, weeks, and can maybe lead you to think more about libraries and what you can do for them. So now let's leave the floor to Jean-Baptiste.
Thank you very much. I would like to extend my thank you to Mr. Abbot for its welcoming in this beautiful venue. We are very lucky to have the door open, and I have heard from some people from Prague that it's the first time that they come in, so I'm very happy that the IED was opportunizing that kind of venue. I would like to thank the European movement, and especially Prime Minister Špidla for co-organizing it with us, along with Pavel and Nicola, who's probably somewhere else, as well as the European Institute Renaissance and Mr. Kaplan with all of his great work. Please. The Institute of European Democracy is a political foundation financed by the European Parliament and its member, and it's important for us to drive and to build bridges among countries, among experts, and among any kind of representative of the civil society for us to dialogue and understand each other. Even though it's a big continent, we still need to understand each other, we still need to talk with each other, because there's still a long way to go for the European ID to be finally and well settled in. I would like to thank you, Mr. Řehák, for your presentation, because it was very interesting for someone like me who haven't set foot, sadly, in a library for a long time, that it can become very exciting, and it actually gives me a lot of wish to return there. So thank you very much. This morning we had this conversation, and this afternoon we had a conversation, and we tried to drive and to create a link between climate change and disinformation. And it's important because those topics are very much treated independently together, but putting them along, it's important. Because yes, some people, they are less and less, but still not believe that climate change is real and it's man-induced. But little by little, addressing the topic, and I was very happy to have Ms. Michalovic and Ms. Morel to talk about those issues from different kind of perspective from the European Union. I would like to remind you to give back your translator to the people who have handed it over to you, and I would like to invite you now for a final drink in the other room. So thank you very much once again, and vive l'Europe.